Hi guys, welcome back. Today I thought I would give you a little sneak peek of all the books that are on my physical TBR. So it's all the books that are behind me on my shelf. I will go through them one by one and maybe tell you a little bit about them if there's anything interesting or especially notable to say about them. And I thought this might be interesting for you guys to get to know what kind of things I'm looking forward to reading. And also because I really like these kind of videos, I like watching them and I just like to be kind of nosy and see what people have on their shelves. So without further ado, let's get into all these books. So I'm gonna start with the lowest shelf, the one that you always see behind me when I'm filming. And I'm gonna start with nonfiction. Going from the right, I have The Book of Barely Imagined Beings by Caspar Henderson, Dame mit Scham by Julia Enders, which is a nonfiction book originally in German about the digestive tract. Then we have Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Rennie Edo-Lodge, and a French essay collection that I found recently about witches and what it means also in terms of feminism. Then we have Medieval Bodies by Jack Hartnell. And now we're moving on to some random books that at least I classified that I would like to read them in autumn because they kind of felt autumny or for winter. And the first one is Jenny Erpenbeck's Heimsuchung, which I think in the English translation is called Visitation. Then we have a little collection of German fairy tales centered around Christmas. Next up is Ali Smith's Winter, which is the second book in the seasonal quartet that I plan on reading this year, and I talk about it in the video where I talk about the sequels I want to get to this year. Then we have a book that I borrowed from my parents, which is a book from an Alsatian author that is talking about her experience living in Alsace between the German-French War of 1890 and the First World War. Next is a book that I mentioned in my 5-star prediction list, Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. Then we have Eldest by Christopher Paolini, which is the second book in the Inheritance cycle, as well as the third, Brissinger, and the fourth, Inheritance. Then we have Daphne du Maurier's The Birds and Other Stories, The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock by Imogen Hermes Gower, The Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz, The Clocks by Agatha Christie, A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, and Three Bags Full by Leonie Swan. Next we have a book by Colm Tobin that I still haven't read called The South, and the two remaining books on this shelf are two books that I already tried to read but kind of put them on hold because it didn't seem like the right time or I just couldn't get into it. We have Lost in a Good Book by Jasper Ford, which is the second book in the Thursday Next series, as well as Ali Smith's The Accidental. And behind this row of books is another row of books, and that's the series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. And I'm gonna show the books that I have yet to read in this series. We have The Hostile Hospital, The Carnivorous Carnival, The Slippery Slope, The Grim Grotto, The Penultimate Peril, and finally The End. This is now the next shelf going up, and you can already see a few trinkets that I have there. I have my bookmarks. And starting from the right, we have the German version of Jonas Jonasson's The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out of the Window and Disappeared. Then we have Altes Land by Dörte Hansen, which is a historical drama set in northern Germany after the Second World War. Ali Smith's How to Be Both. Donna Tartt's The Secret History. Alias Grace by Margaret Atwood. All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, the French translation of the third Neapolitan novel by Elena Ferrante, Then we have two of my childhood Nancy Drew books that I want to reread. The first one is The Witch Tree Symbol, and the second one is The Clue of the Whistling Bagpipes. Next we have The Thing Around Your Neck by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Angela Carter's Book of Fairy Tales, a collection of Alemannic myths and legends, The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield, a French copy of The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. Next I have a few fantasy books, Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, Witches Abroad by Terry Pratchett, The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, Going Postal by Terry Pratchett, and The Binding by Bridget Collins. And finally, on the top of my bookshelf, I have mostly classics, as well as books that I had on my TBR for a long time, and books that I want to read very soon or this summer. Coming from the right, I have a really beautiful book that I got in my hometown in Alsace about customs and legends of Christmas and around Christmas time in my region. Then we have the graphic novel Nimona by Noelle Stevenson. Then we have the books I want to get to really soon. The first one is Ghost Wall by Sarah Moss, Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, which I want to reread this year, and the book my mom lent me about zero waste. Then we have Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Caitlin Doughty. Very much enjoyed her second book, From Here to Eternity. Then we have the second book of the Neapolitan Quartet by Elena Ferrante, which I want to read this year. And finally, A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry. Next are the books that I've been on my TBR the longest, and the first one is Little Dorrit by Charles Dickens, East of Eden by John Steinbeck, and Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Next we have a wide range of classics. The first one is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, L'Assommoir by Émile Zola, set in 19th century Paris and is a study of alcoholism and poverty in the working class at that time. Thomas Hardy's Tess of the D'Urbervilles, To a God Unknown by John Steinbeck, The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, Huis Clos by Jean-Paul Sartre, which I definitely want to reread at some point, Les Fleurs du Mal by Charles Baudelaire, which is a collection of poetry. Next I have this beautiful edition of Das Narrenschiff by Sebastian Brandt, translated The Ship of Fools, which is a satirical book from the 15th century. And then I have two beautiful facsimile editions of Agatha Christie novels that I want to reread. First we have The Murder of Roger Ackroyd and Then There Were None, both by Agatha Christie. And finally I have this really pretty edition of A Book of Celtic Myths. Alright, these were all the books that are on my physical TBR right now and that I want to get to at some point. Do let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of these. Would love to know what you thought about them, if you thought they were good or not so good. It's always nice to have input and to be able to prioritize it a bit. I would love to chat with you down in the comments, so come and say hi, and until next time, bye!